Hey, welcome back to this month's book club. So, once a month, we read a different personal finance book, and this month we chose The Psychology of Money. So, this book is basically all about it's different from like your typical personal finance book that's like you need to invest, you need to know about index funds, you need to have a budget, which all those things are true. But this book is more about how your brain impacts and affects all of your financial decisions, whether you realize it or not. And like I said, once a month we pick a new book. So if you are ever interested in helping us decide what book we're going to pick, make sure that you leave some suggestions down below in the comments. And then I also let subscribers vote on which book they want to read for the next month. So make sure you're subscribed so that you can vote to help us pick what we're going to read next. So for today's book, this book is a great read. So in a next life, I would love to be like a financial therapist. I think that's a thing, but I would love to like just sit and talk to people about money and why they make the decisions that they make surrounding money, because this book proves that like money is very psychological, which is why you can know you can understand like the basics of personal finance, but that doesn't mean that you always choose to follow it, because money is very personal. And that's one of the reasons why my channel is called Life in Numbers, because one, money does impact like everything you do in life, but also money is very personal, and what I do with my money makes sense to me, but it may not make sense to you, and vice versa. And we all have our reasons for why we do what we do, which is one of the chapters in the book that I'll talk about later. But yeah, I really enjoyed reading this book. It's a fast read. There's about 20 or so chapters, and each chapter, sorry that the lighting keeps changing. I'm right in front of a window, and one second it's cloudy and the other second it's sunny. So that's why the lighting keeps changing. But yeah, so there's only about 20 chapters, and each one is just like a lesson of something that he's learned as far as the psychology of money. So it goes by really fast. However, if I were to go into detail about every chapter, we would be here forever. So I'm not going to go into detail about every chapter. I have picked 5 that really like resonated with me. So I will be going over those 5 in this video. So first, let's talk about chapter 1, which is no one's crazy. Basically, this is the concept that we all do what makes sense to us. So very few people wake up and say, I'm going to make really bad decisions today, and I'm going to go against everything that makes sense to me and everything that is against my core beliefs. Most people don't operate that way. I'm sure there are some like very toxic people who do choose that when they wake up in the morning, but most of us don't. Most of us are just out here doing the best we can with the resources and the knowledge that is available to us. And so because of that, when it comes to money, we do what makes sense to us. And not just what makes sense, but what makes sense to us based on whatever life experiences that we've been through. So let's say that you are someone who grew up with a trust fund. You went to private schools, you vacationed in Switzerland for the winter time, you went to Bali for the summertime. I don't know. I'm trying to think of like a very extravagant life. You had butlers, you had chauffeurs. The way that you see money would be very different from someone who grew up on food stamps, from someone who was in Section 8 housing, someone who, I don't know, someone who considers it a luxury to like order anything other than water at a restaurant if they're going to restaurants. Those two people would have a very different mindset and what some people call like a mental model. They would have very different mental models around money because they grew up differently. There's multiple different like factors that can come to play into how you view money. Where were you born? The time period that you were born. If you talk to older people, like people who, well, I mean, it's about to say people who lived through the Depression. I'm thinking, are there people who are alive who also lived through the Great Depression? Those people may be passing on at this point. But my point is, a lot of older people who grew up in times similar to like the Great Depression, um, they hoard money. There's some age groups where like they don't trust banks and they don't put their money in banks. There's some people who don't waste food at all. It doesn't matter if they like it or not, because when they were growing up, they had food scarcity. Like they didn't have a lot of food. So they don't waste food. They eat it all. They, whatever you put in front of them, they will eat it, because they know that there was a time when they didn't have the freedom or privilege to be picky over what they could eat. So the time period that you grew up in, your household that you grew up in, all these are different factors that can inform your financial decisions. So that's important to realize about yourself, that the way that you spend money or manage your money is highly dependent on how you were raised. So I would encourage anyone to sit and think about, like, how was I raised and how did that impact how I spend money? I've done that for myself. So for me growing up, and it's interesting because I have siblings and we all treat money differently, but I think that's because we were all treated differently when we were kids. So for me, I'm the middle child, so that says a lot about me. But for me, I remember like I wanted an iPod Nano. I was in middle school or high school and I really, really wanted an iPod Nano, and my parents were not going to get it for me. And they told me, like, we are not getting it for you. And so I was like, well, okay, if I want it, I'm going to have to get it myself. And so I didn't have a job. I was too young to have a job, but I did get an allowance. I got $1 for every load of clothes that I folded or washed and folded. So I did other chores, but that was the only thing that I got like paid for. So I was like, okay, well, I looked up, or was Google around then? I'm so old. Whatever. I found out like how much the iPod Nano cost, and I was like, okay, well, that's how much I need to save. And every load of clothes that I did, I got $1 and I saved it. And that was like the only way I got money, and I had to pay for other things too. Like if I wanted to do like something fun, I would have to pay for it, or if I wanted some other like toy or like food, if we were like checking out from like Walmart or something, like I had to pay for that too. So I had to spend money on other things. That's my point that I'm trying to make. But I also had this goal in mind of like, I'm saving for this iPod Nano, and it took me a year and a half, but I saved up for it. And I also learned a very cruel lesson of something called sales tax, because I went to go buy it and I didn't realize that sales tax was a thing, but I learned that day. Do you think my parents paid for the sales tax? No, they didn't. So had to save up even more for the sales tax. And yeah, and then it took, like I said, it took a year and a half, but I got that iPod Nano and I like kept really good care of it. There were no scratches on it or anything. Like I kept it for a very, very long time because I worked for it and I wanted to take care of it. And for me, it really created like a sense of, oh, if I want something, I'm gonna have to get it. And I think that that's like very evident in my adult life too, because I'm at my parents' house now. But if you've seen other videos, you know, like my house, like there are some nice things in there, and nobody got me those nice things. I got me those nice things. But my point is, if I wanted it, I had to go and get it. And that is the lesson that I learned. And I've told that story to my parents not too long ago, and they forgot. I told them that, and they were like, why didn't we just buy that for you? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know why you didn't just buy it for me, but you didn't. And they're like, oh, going back, we should have just got that for you, or at least like paid half of it. And I'm just like, ugh. I'm like, well, time machines don't exist, so oh well for me. But even though I did have to wait like a year and a half to get that thing that I wanted, it also taught me how to save, and it taught me like if I want something bad enough, I'm going to find a way to get it. So that's part of my mental model. So I encourage you to sit back and think like what happened in your childhood that may have impacted how you view money now. So next I want to talk about chapter 5, which is getting wealthy versus staying wealthy. You may think that they're similar, which they are kind of similar, but not really. They're actually really different concepts because the skill sets that it takes to get wealthy are different than the skill sets that will take to stay wealthy. There's people who are great at making money, but they have no idea how to manage that money and save it so that they stay wealthy. In order to get wealthy, it usually takes, well, I'm not even going to talk about people who are just born into wealth, but if you are someone who was not born wealthy and you want to get wealthy, how are you going to do that? One, you're going to have to come up with an idea of how you're going to get wealthy. So it's going to take like some amount of creativity, right? It's probably going to also take a certain amount of work ethic to obtain that, because you're going to have to put in work over time to get wealthy, because getting wealthy is not an overnight thing. Even if it looks like overnight, it's usually years of compounded work to get to the point where you are officially wealthy, right? So creativity, hard work, I don't know. It probably takes some other things too. I'm not wealthy yet, so I don't know all that it takes, but it's a certain skill set that it takes to get wealthy. Versus staying wealthy usually is going to take, one, you living below your means. You know how to budget. You know how to save. You're not spending everything that you make. It's two different mindsets and it's two different skill sets. So like if you think about the lottery, there's people who have won the lottery and a lot of them blow through the money. They win the lottery and a few years later that money is gone. And I'm talking about like the big lotteries that people win, like multiple millions of dollars. Look it up. A lot of them, they blow through the money because they had the skill set to get the money, which in their case, the skill set to keep playing the lottery until they eventually won. But what got them there was not going to keep them there, which is why the money is gone now. So it kind of brings up the point of which is more important, getting wealthy or staying wealthy, because what is the point of getting wealthy if you cannot stay wealthy? So yeah, they're both important, but really what I would think what's most important is the ability to stay wealthy, because is that not sad to have this huge pot of money and then a year later you have nothing to show for it? What did you do with the money? Are you wearing the money? Did you eat the money? Like, what did you do with the money? For me personally, I feel like I need to work on both of those things. Yeah, I I feel like I need to work on both of those. I feel like I need to work on making more money, especially now with being laid off. Yeah, so need to work on making more money, but I also really need to work on keeping the money that I have, because even though I've proven like in the past that I am capable of paying off debt and I am capable of saving, I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like I should be further along than I am right now. And part of that may be like me just being hard on myself, which that's definitely a possibility, but oh well. What else is new, right? So I do feel like I should be further along. So I'm thinking about like getting out of credit card debt and staying out of credit card debt, never going back into credit card debt again. And also like investing. That's another thing that I personally want to improve on to make sure that I can stay wealthy once I get wealthy. Next, chapter 9 was called Wealth is What You Don't See. So if someone is rich, a lot of times you can see that. And being rich is someone's current income. What can you currently afford? So in the book, they give an example of like what type of car someone drives. So for me, there is one car in particular that I think looks so nice. It's the BMW X6. And to me, that thing is like, it's just I don't know. I just really like it. It looks like a tank going down the road, but like a fashionable, aesthetically pleasing tank. And if I had one, it would be black with black rims, and the inside would be a peanut butter interior, and I'd have the windows tinted, and I would call it the Batmobile. And yeah, as you can see, I've thought about this, but I don't have that car because the way that I would spec it out, that would be easily like, I'm looking at the prices on my phone right now. The base model of that is $75,000, and the top tier model is $132,000. So obviously a very expensive car. And I've seen people driving those cars. I've seen them. And obviously to have that car, those people have to have a certain type of income. They have to have, either they bought it outright, which is, impressive or not impressive, however you want to look at that. But either they bought that car outright, or they're managing to make the payments on that car. So either way, they got to have a certain type of income to be able to drive that car down the road. And that can be an indicator of if someone is rich or not, right? But it doesn't mean that they're wealthy, because wealth is not as obvious. Wealth sometimes is invisible, because when you are wealthy, it's the option to not buy certain things. Like, you could buy it. A wealthy person could buy a BMW X6. In fact, like, wealthy people may view that as a cheap car for them, but they have the option to not buy it. So for this chapter, I view it as there are some people who walk around in, let's say, a Chanel bag, which, if you don't know, be prepared to drop like 10,000 or so. Like some designer luxury bag, right? Like they'll have that, but if you open that bag, their wallet has like $10 in it. So there's some people who are like that and are more concerned about like appearances and looking rich. Some people who, let's say they have like $10,000 sitting in a checking account, just sitting there, like that's their regular everyday money, but they walk around in like the Walmart Birkins bag. If you like, I don't know if people are still talking about that, but a few months ago that Walmart came out with a bag that looked just like a Birkins bag, right? But so they could have that bag, which I don't know, was a fraction of the price of a real Birkins bag, but they over here got $10,000 in the bank in a checking account. So those people are not concerned about looking rich because they actually know that they're wealthy and they don't have to look rich. Chapter 13 is room for error. Basically, this chapter is all about you need to have a plan for your plan not going to plan. Basically, something's always going to happen. Something is always going to happen. You don't know when it's going to happen, but it is inevitable that something is going to go wrong at some point in time, and you need to plan for these moments. And a lot of times it's the things that you wouldn't even have thought of. So the book talks about like challenging yourself to think outside the box and think about like, okay, these are like the typical things that could go wrong, but what's something that's a little more outside the box that could go wrong? They talk about like a single point of error where it may be something that you didn't think about, but if this one thing happened, the entire plan would fall apart. So think through life in that lens of always trying to be prepared. Basically, you need to be Batman. You need to be Batman. You need to have contingency plans for your contingency plans. The reason why Batman is like one of the leaders of the Justice League, if not the leader, but definitely like one of the leaders, is because he doesn't have any superpowers other than being rich. He doesn't have any superpowers, but his superpower is he's a master planner. He thinks through everything, right? So basically, you need to be Batman when it comes to your finances. Contingency plans for your contingency plans. When it comes to money, the book says, I'm looking at my notes, but the book says the biggest single point of failure with money is a sole reliance on a paycheck to fund short-term spending needs with no savings to create a gap between what you think your expenses are and what they might be in the future. Basically, don't count on just one paycheck to fund an immediate need or an immediate want. Not living paycheck to paycheck. And also, what are you using that paycheck on? Is that paycheck just to cover your rent or mortgage and food and whatever like immediate bills that you have? Or are you using that paycheck to, yes, cover those things, but to also save for the future? One of the chapters in the book, I'm not going to talk about it in detail in this video, but one of the chapters in the book is saving. And he talks about don't just save for like a house or a car. You need to always be saving because you never know what is going to happen. You never know. So just always have this concept of saving. No, whenever you get paid, come up with a certain percentage, whether it's 10%, 20%, whatever, but whenever you get paid, put money aside and put it in a savings account, preferably a high yield savings account. I use Wealthfront. If you're interested in that, I have a link below that you can use. This is not sponsored by them, but I do have an affiliate link if you want to use that. But yeah, always be saving money because you never know what could and will eventually happen in the future. So that's why contingency plans for your contingency plans. Next, moving on to chapter 15, nothing is free, especially in America. Especially in America, okay? This is a capitalist society. Nothing's free here. And even if it is free, it may be free to you, but somebody paid for it. So nothing is free. Even things that are good things, you'll still have to pay some type of access charge to be able to use it, right? And so think of it as the difference between a fee and a fine. A fee is something that you pay as your ticket to enter something, right? So a fee is actually a good thing because in order to do this, you'll have to pay this fee in order to do it. Kind of think of it like a maintenance type thing. It's the price that you pay to enjoy this good thing, right? And then a fine is you did something bad, so now you gotta pay this fine. So the example that they used in the book, like when you're investing, there's typically like a fee that you have to pay to invest. They're usually really, really small, like less than 1%, or even smaller than 1%, right? But it's still a fee that you have to pay, but that's the price that you pay in order to invest. So in that case, it's a good thing. It's a fee, not a fine. A fine is you parked in a place where you shouldn't have parked and now you have a parking ticket. So that's a fine because you did something that you shouldn't have done. So there are some things in life where you will get fined, and then there's other times in life where you will have to pay a fee. But just shift your mind on, like, I don't like spending money either, right? But there are some times where I'll be okay with paying a fee because that means that I'll get to do something that I want to do. Okay, so those were the 5 chapters that I wanted to go over, but if you are still watching this video, number 1, thank you. Leave like a money related emoji in the comments if you're still watching this. But I wanted to give one other chapter. So chapter 19 in the book is called All Together Now. And if really, like, I'll let you in on a secret. If you don't read the book, just read chapter 19, because chapter 19 is basically a summary of everything that the book talked about. It's like the highlight reel or spark notes of the entire book. And it's really short because it shortens each chapter into like a paragraph, basically. So if you can't read the whole book, just read chapter 19. But one of the things that chapter 19 says that No one can tell you what to do with your money because they are not you. They don't know what you want. They don't know why you want it. They don't know the context of your life. They have not lived your life. They aren't you. So they can't really tell you what to do with your money. However, financial advisors, even like money influencers, even though I'm not a financial advisor, I am not. So don't, if I ever say like give recommendations on what to do and it doesn't have a good result for you, you cannot blame me. I am not a personal finance advisor. I'm someone on the internet talking about money. But you can learn from other people, and especially like professionals, they do have a certain amount of wisdom that you may not have. So there are, pieces of truth of what they're saying. There are these universal truths when it comes to money. Yes, invest. Yes, save. Yes, budget. Like these are all universal truths. But what they lack is the context of your life. So you can listen to these universal truths, but ultimately it is your life and you know you way better than I'm ever gonna know you. So listen to other people and, get the wisdom from other people, but ultimately it is your life and nobody can tell you what to do with your money other than you. And sometimes there can be a difference between what someone suggests or recommends that you do and then what they end up doing for themselves. And sometimes that can be, like you can question that because it's like, well, how are you going to tell me to do this, but then you're not doing it yourself? And that's not always a bad thing, because that just further proves that money is really personal. And just like I said a second ago, like they could be recommending you do this thing because it is a universal truth, but they may choose to do things slightly differently because of who they are and their life experiences and what they went through when they were a child, that then reinforces what they believe and how they act around money today. So if you've ever noticed someone's like, you told me to do this, but you're not doing it, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do what they're doing. And it doesn't always mean that they're a hypocrite or something like that, but it does mean that they are a person and they are living their own life. And one last thing from the book. So it says that important financial decisions aren't made in a spreadsheet, they're made at the dinner table. And that just further proves that money is a very personal thing, because you can look at a spreadsheet and it can tell you like, oh, this is how much I should put towards food, and this is how much I should put towards gas in my car, and this is how much I should budget for travel, and this is how much I should budget for savings. And you can tell yourself all these things, but at the end of the day, that's a spreadsheet and it's not you, and it's not how you actually feel in that moment. So that's why he says these important financial decisions are made at a dinner table, because that's where emotions come out, like sitting down with your spouse, sitting there like looking at your kids while they're eating or while they're doing their homework, and you're thinking like, my kids deserve better, I need to make more money type thing. Money's a very personal thing, and it's not black and white. There's a lot of gray areas, and it's really up to you and what you want out of life that's going to dictate how you end up spending money and how you end up managing your money. All right, so those are my thoughts on the psychology of money. Like I said before, I really enjoyed this book. It's not your typical personal finance book. It really does talk about your mindset and your mental model around money and why you do the things that you do when it comes to money. So I really did enjoy this book. If you enjoyed it, please leave some comments down below and give this video a like, and make sure you're subscribed so that you see upcoming videos, and also so that you can help us pick which book we'll end up reading next. So yeah, I will see you next time.